Continuing with the lesson on supply and demand, here's learning target 2. I can explain what causes the supply of a good or service to change and show that change in a graph. A change in supply. A change in the supply of a particular good is going to occur if for any reason other than the price of a good changing, suppliers, businesses are willing and able to supply and make more or less of the good to the market. Now contrast this with a change in quantity supplied. That occurred as a result of the price of the good changing. Here it's for any reason other than price changing. A change in quantity supplied was shown by a movement to a different point along the curve. A change in supply, however, is going to be shown by an entire shift of the curve. Let's take a look at that. Graph on the left, generic supply curve labeled S1. Let's say that other than price changing, something happens, and now businesses are willing and able to make more of a good and supply more of a good. How do we show that? Shift the curve to the right. We have a brand new curve, S2. Price hasn't changed, but now the amount of the good that's made and is available on the market has increased. Decrease in supply, shift the curve to the left. Brand new curve, S2. Increase to the right, decrease to the left. Now, what are those reasons that, other than price changing, now businesses are willing and able to make and supply more or less of a good? Let's take a look at the determinants of supply, the shifters of the curve. First, weather events, disasters, either man-made disasters or natural disasters or other types of shocks which could interrupt the making of a product, could perhaps destroy resources. So maybe there's an unusual freeze in Florida, and therefore we're not going to have as many oranges, so the supply of oranges might go down. Maybe there's an oil spill that would decrease the supply of oil available on the market. These types of things usually decrease the supply of a product, but maybe something happens that increases the supply. Maybe it's unusually good growing season for wheat, and the supply of wheat is higher than normal on the market. Second determinant of supply, input costs. This is a big one, and I have it starred. Inputs, those resources, the factors of production that go into making something. If input costs go up, for example, or the price of resources go up, then supply is going to go down as a result of that. There's not as much of an incentive to make the product if the costs are higher. Now, the opposite would be true here as well. If input costs go down, if it's cheaper to make something, then the supply of it is going to go up. Third determinant of supply, government regulation. Here, when you think about government regulation, think of a rule or law that goes to a business or the making of a particular product. And for the most part, an increase in government regulation is going to decrease the supply of that product. You can think of more government regulation, whether the regulation is warranted or not. More government regulation is going to be more of a burden on businesses. There's more they have to do in order to make the product. And so that's like an added cost to them. An added cost, supply goes down. Now there's two other things that you might think of when you think of government regulation, although I don't want you to think of this as government regulation. But these are things government related that could affect the supply of a product. One is a business tax or a profit tax. If business taxes go up, then that's like an added cost for businesses, and the supply of whatever product they make, all else being equal, everything else is remaining the same, will go down. Another thing, there could be a government subsidy on a particular product. Government subsidies, the government is paying businesses to make a product. So maybe they pay corn producers $1 for every cob of corn they make. So that incentivizes corn production, and you're going to get a greater supply of corn. So government subsidies cause the supply of that product to go up. Fourth determinant of supply, number of sellers in the market. The greater number of sellers, greater supply. Fewer number of sellers, less supply. Fifth determinant, expectations. Future expectations, usually regarding price. If you're a business and you think that in the future you could get a higher price for this particular product, what's going to happen to the supply of the product today? More than likely, the supply of the product today would go down because you're going to hold off, you're going to wait to use the resources you have to produce it in the future, where you could get a higher price. And last determinant of supply is technology. Technology for the production of a particular good. Technology makes production faster and cheaper and more efficient. So when there's an improvement in production technology, that's going to cause the supply of that particular good to go up. Now you try. Show and identify what would happen to the supply of cars, so it's the car market, if the wages paid to car laborers increased ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus, that Latin phrase for all else remaining equal, we're assuming that the only thing that has changed is that the wages paid to car laborers has increased. So pause the video here, draw the graph. Remember when it says show, draw the graph, and then identify just right off to the side what happens to the supply of cars. Okay, so here's your graph. Price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis, upward sloping supply curve labeled S1. And the supply of cars is going to decrease. Wages paid to car laborers are an input cost, labor being a resource, wage being the price of that resource. So input costs here have gone up, and assuming everything else has remained the same, the supply is going to go down. How do we show that? Shift the curve to the left.